What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to do with you guys. A particularly fun one. This is the new XL Kizer Sheepdog, and it is an absolute monster. I cannot wait to tell you guys my thoughts on this thing. First and foremost, I want to thank Harry Gage. Harry Gage is a legendary metal knight on my Patreon. He's my only legendary metal knight. So that in and of itself is amazing. But on top of that, he messaged me out of the blue. If you didn't watch my unboxing of this knife, he messaged me out of the blue and he said, "Hey, Complex, what's the most interesting knife to you under $250 that you don't have right now?" And I thought, I was just inquiring, and if you watch my top 10 most interesting knives of 2019, I listed the Chavez 229, but it was over 300. So I thought, truthfully, even though this is way under 250 bucks, it's the Kizer Sheepdog XL. I mean, how can you, whether you're interested in it or not, it's just intriguing, it's huge. And I didn't expect this, but he just bought it for me and sent it to me. And I told him multiple times, I said, you don't have to feel obligated to do that. And he insisted. And so I just, I've said it before, and I know you guys are like, stop gushing, that's annoying. But seriously, thank you so much for doing that. I love this. I've been playing with it like nonstop. This is officially the most annoying thing to my wife as of right now, because she has not been able to escape my playing with it and it being noisy. So thank you, Harry, for that. I'm just infinitely appreciative. Before we get started here, just want to remind you guys again, I do have an Instagram. If you guys would like to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex, I urge you to do so. I will be doing some future Instagram-only giveaways, so please do. If you're not subscribed to me, go ahead and subscribe, hit the notifications button, or don't, whatever you want, that's totally fine. And also, I still have the Masterrock Mordax that I want to give away. Can't wait to give that thing away. We'll open it up as a giveaway knife as soon as I hit 50 patrons. If you want more details on that, follow the link in the description below, check out my Patreon, and read the bold text. Anyways, let's go ahead and get some measurements on this behemoth. Overall length of the Kizer XL Sheepdog is coming in at a whopping, it's almost 9 1/4. It's like 9 1/8. Yeah, just maybe a little bit more than that. It's very close to 9 1/4 inches. Blade length from tip to scale is definitely over 4 inches. It's like between 4 1/8 and 4 1/4, and then the actual cutting edge is 3.75 inches. This is a huge knife. Let's do some size comparisons here real quick. Up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. Rat 1 coming in at a feeble 8.6 inches compared to this. It's not just length, it's the height. And I'm not the first person to review this, or laugh about how crazy it is, but it's just insane. Like, you guys know, a lot of people won't carry this version of the Rat because it's too big versus its little brother, the Rat 2. This thing is huge. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? Spyderco PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall, again dwarfed. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches again, no contest. And a meaningless size comparison altogether, the Spyderco Delica coming in at 7 inches. I only have one knife that comes close to the mass that this thing takes up on my screen. And it's hilarious, but it's the Praetorian tie. So let's put it up against the Praetorian tie. Now, you guys know, here's the thing. The Praetorian tie is way heavier and way thicker. Truthfully, this thing is much closer in size to the T, which is the thinner version. But you can see here that this is the size of knife we're looking at, and it's actually bigger. Now, I'm at an angle here, so I'm going to flip-flop these real quick. Put this one here and the tie here so you guys can see. It's still, even being on top now, it's still bigger in overall length. And actually in height, I think the height of each blade at its maximum point, I think the Sheepdog is actually taller. We're looking at about 2 inches there and a little less than 2 inches. Yeah, it's I think at its tallest point, it's about 2 inches. So that is crazy. We'll bring the tie back out here for a sec. I got another point to make with it. How about the action on this guy? Yeah, the blade is heavy enough that it takes just a little bit of a shake, but it's honestly almost a fall shut action. And the detent is perfect. It's heavy enough to actually get a nice release on the blade, and then it's going to fire. It's the way that this is set up is more of a light. It's not really push button. It's more of a light switch action. My favorite part of the deployment is the noise that it makes. Listen to this. You hear that metallic reverberation? Some people don't like that. They associate it with a feeling of low quality. It actually sounds aggressive and clingy, almost like how if you're watching an old action cartoon, kind of how a sword sounds when it leaves its sheath. That's what it makes me think of, is the excessive metallic noise. This is not a stealthy knife. If you are a ninja in real life, this knife will give you away, and it will also be too big and too cumbersome. For the rest of us who think like normal people, it doesn't matter. Who cares? This is not a knife that I would say is very well suited for EDC, but we're going to talk more about that here in a sec. Let's go ahead and weigh it. Let me get my scale out here real quick. Weight on the Kizer XL Sheepdog is coming in at a whopping 9.14 ounces. Let's go again. 9.14 ounces. So that's heavy, and I will say this. I don't know if it's because I've been handling the Praetorian tie, or if I just like heavier knives, or if it's some weird, thing where my brain is expecting something. It actually doesn't feel that heavy. Truthfully, when I picked this up, I was like, oh, I bet that thing weighs 7 or 8 ounces, So, and even when I was holding the box, I said this box feels like 8.5 ounces. That was including the weight of the box and the packaging, which is probably half an ounce or an ounce. So this feels somewhere between 6 and 8 ounces. Being over 9 is a little bit surprising. That's not really doing any justice in any particular direction, because the overall, what that comes down to is it's still freaking huge and freaking heavy. That's it. That's all there is to say about it. Let's take a look. By the way, there's 2 versions of this right now. There's OD green with this blue pivot collar, and then there's black with the OD green pivot collar. Now, at the time of this video, I think you can still find the green ones. I don't know if you can find the black ones. I think they might be sold out. In the future, I imagine these things will become widely available because of 2 things. Number 1, there's nothing else out on the market exactly like this. And number 2, it's $100. I generally wait till the end of the video to tell you whether or not I think it's a good buy. This is a good buy. For $100, it's in 154 cm, it's G10, and it's just crazy. I mean, there's nothing else like this for this price at $100. Yeah, it's a good buy. At the time of whenever you're watching this, you'll probably have access to either. Don't pay more on the secondary market. I imagine Kizer will make these things readily available. Taking a look at the blade here, we have a gigantic sheep's foot style blade with a nice satin polish on it. You can see up here it says Kizer and 154 cm. This is fine, but why do we have the V5488C2? Just don't put that on there. I don't understand. On the other side, you have the Sheepdog Knives logo, which is the original designs of these knives were by Sheepdog Knives. And then you have CO1C, which again, why is that not on there? You can leave the XL on there, take it out of parentheses. I think just XL would be cool to give it the identifying mark. I don't know why we have all that stuff on there though. If you want to know how readily this thing will slice, because take a look at the stock thickness. It is definitely thinner than a PM2. 145 thousandths on the PM2. It's probably about 135 thousandths on the Sheepdog. A lot closer to the, I guess closer. I think the Ritter Hogue is about 125 thousandths, but it's definitely thin at the starting stock, and it's got a lot of room to drop down towards the cutting edge. So what you end up with is a insane cutting edge. I mean, just insanely thin cutting edge. I was able to tape a piece of paper to the edge of my desk where it was just free hanging and just take chunks off of it. There's a video on my Instagram if you want to go check it out. So this is an excellent slicer. Now, it's shaped a lot like a kitchen knife. It's shaped a lot like a thin chopper blade. So a lot of people have been talking about whether or not it'd be good for food prep. I don't know. The flipper tab is pretty big, so there's a big chunk of the blade that's not, if you lay it down like this, that's not actually contacting anything. I don't know. I don't know if it's good for food prep, but then again, I don't have any experience with that, so I don't know. What I do know is that it slices very, very, very well. That's about all I can say there. You have a nice flat that carries out about, 85% the total length of the blade. I do like this little notch up here that they've got. It just adds some character to what would otherwise just be a sharp angle. That looks nice. You have a nice swedge up top. The blade is very attractive. I mean, most people who are interested in this knife, it's for the blade. The blade is extremely attractive. It's also symmetrical in terms of the cutting edge and just all the lines everywhere. I mean, this is a very beautifully executed blade. Moving down to the gigantic scales, we do have Peel Ply textured G10 scales. You've got a nice, what I assume is blue anodized aluminum on the pivot collar. And then you have the Torx head pivot there. You've got 3 little traction lines, which they look nice on the scale, and they actually do meet up with your fingers and provide traction. This is actually a really, when you lock into this knife, you are locking into it. There's a nice palm swell. The fingers all fall in a comfortable position. Everything's nicely rounded off on the edges here. It's not uncomfortable. It's actually very, very nice to hold, and it feels very, it's a big knife. It not only is it secure, but you feel pretty powerful holding it, Well, I don't know what you'd be about ready to do. Maybe competition chopping. I don't know. But it feels really good. So that's great. We haven't talked about this yet. 154 cm. 154 cm is one of my favorite blade steels ever. Now, this is the ingot form of CPM 154, which is a superior version of it. But on budget knives, I am all for 154 cm. I think this is a fantastic steel for what this is and how much it costs. What I'd like to see happen in the future, not to say that D2 isn't a good steel. D2 is a great steel, and I'm perfectly happy to pay, anywhere from $25 to $75 for D2. But I'd like to see 154 cm not replace D2, but I'd like to see it mixed in with budget knives. Any of these, Kizer's already got this figured out, but I've noticed a couple of times there have been some of these companies that do have a budget line. They watch some of my videos. I appreciate that because I'm still a smaller channel. But if any of you are watching, and you may not be, I think the knife world would be really happy to start seeing 154 cm more. I know it is a little bit right now, but more in these budget lines. So if you have a premium line and you have a budget line, I think a lot of us would be really happy to see 154 cm start to, be around the $75 mark. And I hope that maybe what I'm really trying to say is I hope the cost of it comes down so that it is justifiable in that price range. But if it becomes opportunistic, between $75 and $100, and you can put that, like Civivi, I would be really excited to see that on some of their knives. And maybe they already are, but that's kind of what I'm wanting to see. I hope in the next year or two we start seeing 154 cm knives in this budget category a lot more than we do right now. It is a stainless steel. It's notorious for having pretty good edge retention, pretty good toughness. In fact, pretty good everything. It's very, very well rounded, making it an excellent steel for an EDC knife. I'm glad to see it on this knife, but given the nature of it, it's just so big and wonky, it's not going to make a good EDC tool. For those of you who don't know, there's actually 3 sizes of this knife now. In the Vanguard series for Kizer, you have the small Sheepdog, which I do have a review on. That's G10 and, what was it, VG10 back then? Then their premium line actually is the only way to get the medium-sized one. You can't get it in the Vanguard series. That one's, 7.5 inches overall, maybe 8 inches. That one runs somewhere around $200, maybe more. It's all titanium, and is it M390? I can't remember. I've never handled it. Then you have this XL size, which is, again, only in the Vanguard series. So I don't know if they have plans in the future to bring the medium one to the Vanguard series, or plans to bring the small Sheepdog or XL series to the premium line. That would be one heck of a... Can you imagine this in all titanium? That'd be crazy and very expensive. No idea. But, depending on what size you want, you can kind of get what you want. Anyways, what should we move on to here? Let's go back into ergonomics and the scale here. We have some nice oversized button head Torx screws, which I really appreciated. If you're going to take this knife apart, those are going to be easy to get your tools into. Turning it this way, you can see the thickness of this thing is really, really thick. I mean, up against the PM2, we're a little bit thicker than the PM2. Up against the Rat, you're a little bit thicker than the Rat. Easily bigger liners. And up against the Griptilian, we're easily thicker than the Griptilian as well. You've got some nice oversized steel liners, as I mentioned, and some really nice polished standoffs. I really like that look, the pillar construction. Moving over to this, oh, and by the way, there is some milling on the inside of those steel liners. So had they not done that, it would have actually weighed a little bit more. Moving over to this side, you have a nice functional basic pocket clip. The shape of this pocket clip is one that's very easy to get over your pants. And I gotta admit, guys, in the pocket, I can't show you, but this knife in the pocket, honestly, it's not that bad in terms of how it carries. I don't know if it's just like the angle that it's carrying or the pocket clip. It sinks pretty low, and the angle of that blade, a lot of it is actually hidden by your pocket because it kind of dips down into the pocket. So I showed a lot of my friends at work, I said, is this noticeable? And they said, no, it actually kind of disappears. I don't know if that's going to be echoed by a lot of people or not, but one thing that does not disappear is the weight and mass of it. This is not a knife where you're going to have a lot of anything else in the pocket, and it's definitely going to pull your pants down a little bit. So in terms of what it looks like from the outside to other people, it just looks like a regular pocket knife. You know, it doesn't look like anything crazy. But to you, yes, if you're wondering, am I going to notice it? Yes, you are going to notice it. Just like anything else, if you carry this and only this, you will get used to it, which is why you'll hear people say, it's not that hard to carry. You know, or you'll hear people say things like, I EDC a Praetorian or I EDC a Crusader Forge or some of these crazy knives. It's because they buy it and then they only carry that and then they get used to it. Does that make it more convenient? No. I mean, knives like this and this and this are always going to be more convenient than this. But if this is all you're carrying, you're going to get used to that, and that's where you're going to get that skewed information. So is it fun to carry? Is it fun to show to people? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Does it make sense? No. Anything this knife can do, any of these other knives can do. This is just fun. It's fun that can be had at an affordable price. That's what it is. I hope the inside of this is D-shaped because I would imagine taking this apart would be really, really easy if it is. The pocket clip, unfortunately, is only mountable on the right-hand side for right now. I don't know if they have a left-handed version of this or if they plan to make a left-handed version. That would be nice if they did. Centering came absolutely 100% perfect. Lockup, you know, considering the size of the lock bar and the thickness of the blade, a lot of people might call that late, but this is an oversized lock bar, and this is a thinner than you would expect blade. So it's coming in at about a 60-65% lockup. Very solid, no blade play up, down, left, or right. You do have shouldering up here for the contact for the stop pin, which is great. That's going to slow down the wear on this, but this is all steel, so it should be just fine. You also have a nice little cutout right here, just a little bit to be able to get your thumb in there. Now, given, you know, there's already an enormous amount of space just given the distance between each of the liners, but it's just nice to be able to get your thumb in there. In fact, for as big as this knife is, it's actually really easy to flip and get past that detent ball, shake shut, you know, flip it open again, or maybe you like to kick it shut or whatever. One warning that I will give you guys, that blade is very big and very heavy and very sharp. If you miss, not only is there a good chance you'll cut yourself, honestly, there's a good chance you'll sever a good ways into your finger. If you're going to play with this, make sure you get your fingers out of the way. I'm waiting until we start to see a massive amount of pictures of people having nearly severed their fingers playing with this. One other thing I'll say, this piece right here, when you're getting it past the detent ball, this is basically what I'm going to now refer to as a thumb hammer. Getting it past the detent ball, there's so much weight and mass and contact between that flipper tab and your thumb. After a while, my thumbnail actually starts to get sore because you're hammering that thing down on your thumb every time you do this. And you might think, well, that happens with a flipper tab no matter what. Okay, it does, but there's way less weight on average on a blade like that. I mean, this is a flipper knife, and there's also less contact point. There's a lot of material coming down on your finger, and it really does start to hurt after a while. This is also one of the biggest, heaviest blades I've ever seen on a flipper knife. So I have to assume that over time, the amount of steel interface that's between the tang and the lock bar and the shouldering and the stop pin, it might wear a lot faster than a typical liner lock or frame lock. I don't know that. I'm just assuming that might be the case. Though I will admit, I have flipped this thing about 1,000 times, and it doesn't look like the lock bar is moving much. It really looks to be in about the exact same place as when I got it. So maybe it's been hardened. I have no idea. That's, you know, I think that's about all I can say there. Let me add this in. This is a knife that's kind of like a scratch and itch kind of knife. You know, you have to, there aren't going to be many people going, you know, I see a very specific utilitarian purpose for that knife and I'm going to buy it for that utilitarian purpose. No, I think a lot of people are going to look at this and go, that thing is crazy, and everybody seems to be saying positive things about it. It's only $100. I got to have it. I can't blame you there. Specifically, I think people who are looking to scratch this type of itch, maybe you're looking at the Praetorian T or the Praetorian tie, or maybe you're even just looking at the production Praetorian, right? You just like, I know that it's impractical, but people seem to like really get a lot of joy out of these, and I just really, really want one, but they're so expensive. Even the production Praetorian is $425. Hey, coming from somebody who's owned the T and the tie, yeah, they're a lot of fun. Yeah, they're really expensive, but if you want to scratch that itch, or kind of you want to tiptoe into whether or not you're going to enjoy a knife that big, this is your guy right here. Honestly, I mean, just walking around and playing with both of these, like I'm getting pretty similar enjoyment out of both of them. Neither of them are knives that I'm honestly going to use a whole lot. I might use the Kizer just because it's fun to carry and use, but I get a lot of enjoyment out of that. And if it were me and I had paid, listen, if Harry hadn't bought this for me, I would have bought one of these for myself. Absolutely. $100 is an easy choice on this. And this is a unique review. This is the only knife I think on this playlist that I'm not going to, I'm going to recommend this knife. But I'm not recommending it because I think it's like a fantastic utilitarian choice. I'm recommending it because it's the most fun I've ever had with a knife for the least amount of money. It has the best ratio between those two things that I've ever had. If you don't like how this thing looks, or you don't like big knives, then it's not going to be for you. But for everybody else who's like, does it bring you happiness? Yes! So much happiness. It's just fun. It's weird. It's different. I love that Kizer did it, it just makes me so happy. So this is going to be going on my knives that bring me the most joy, knives that I just love, my favorite knives playlist. And it's also going to be going on my most recommended knives playlist. But I wanted to clarify exactly what I mean by recommended. I do not recommend this knife for EDC. In fact, I don't recommend it for much of anything. I don't know what this would be good at over other knives. But I do know that for $100, this is an excellent buy. It's just super cool. So that's honestly about all I can say. Be careful about bringing this thing down on your fingers. Makes an excellent conversation piece. The action is just great. You are sure to turn some heads with this, and it's fun. Just be careful about where you're carrying it, because this is a scary knife. This is a knife that will scare people, and they're going to question why you're carrying it. Definitely. Especially, non-knife people. So, anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it entertaining. If you did, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So check that stuff out. And if you enjoy all my content, then please subscribe to my channel, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.